A volunteer experience can be fulfilling, it can be magical, but it doesn't just happen. So you need to put some effort into it. And more than effort, I think some thought beforehand. You know, how much time do you really want to give at this point in your life? If you're looking at retirement, what does retirement look like for you? Are you going to be fully retired? Are you half working? Are you down to 3/4 time? And you'd like to have some time to yourself, but then fill in a bit with some volunteer opportunity. So I think you need to go in with a plan and have a fairly formulated idea about what volunteering will look like for you. We find that a lot of people are entering their second careers, oftentimes as consultants, and then have time to engage in activities in their community. I always say to people, if you're thinking about where you want to donate your time or donate your money, think about your passion. Do you have a passion about something? And if someone can answer, yes, I've been passionate about this issue, then I say, go find those agencies that are involved with your passion. Other times people will say, well, I care about things, but I don't really have a passion that I could identify. Then I say, well, then how do you want the world to change? And the world or your community, how do you define your community? Is it your geographic community? Is it your community of faith? Is it your community of your ethnocultural background? However you define it, where do you want change? It may be also that, for instance, if you're an accountant in your work life, perhaps an agency is looking for some help with the financial process. If you come to a volunteer center, they'll have member agencies who will be telling the volunteer center what they're looking for and what they need. So the volunteer center basically acts as a broker of skills, matching it to opportunities. That, I would say, is your first place to look. And you can do that by calling them, dropping in, and on their websites they will list the kinds of opportunities that are needed at that particular time in their community. You could go to Charity Village, a website that lists volunteer opportunities and also lists employment opportunities in the voluntary sector. Now, if you live in a community that doesn't have a volunteer center, again, I would suggest that you go to an agency that is either engaged in the change that you're looking for in your community or committed to the passion that you've identified for yourself, and call them up and say, I would like to volunteer. Do you have a coordinator or manager of volunteers? And they'll say yes or no and direct you to the right person, and go from there. Talk to people that you know and find out where they're volunteering. I mean, my dream of dreams is that when you're introduced to someone, instead of saying, you know, people inevitably say, and so what do you do? And if you're working, you usually say, oh, well, I'm a or I do this or that. Or you might say, well, I've just recently retired, or I'm thinking about retiring, or I'm a consultant. My dream is that the first thing you would respond is, well, I'm a volunteer, and I volunteer at. And if that happens, not only will I be very happy, but I think it will be much easier for people to find out how to volunteer because someone will have mentioned it. So I would say, much like when you're looking for work, just networking, you know, talking to your friends and saying, so do you volunteer somewhere? And you'd be surprised, a lot of people volunteer but don't see it as volunteering. I'm just helping out.